today. Carol Kowalski is facilitating positive change and impact through thoughtful and strategic community relations, engagement, and philanthropy. She is a nonprofit leader with complex philanthropic partnerships, most recently as Planned Giving Director for the YMCA of Pierce and Kitsap counties. She has over 20 years of donor-centered philanthropy with Washington State University, Arizona State University, and Oregon State University, as well as local nonprofits such as Kitsap Regional Library, St. Michael's Hospital, Mathis Guild, and YMCA of Pierce and Kitsap counties. She is now currently with Kitsap Bank as a community builder to advance the triple bottom line values to strengthen community through nonprofit partnerships, sustainability through sound climate change practices, along with economic business development, creating equity for all. Carol is a proud alumna of WSU, and I'm supposed to say this, go Cougs, as well as an alumna of the American College of Financial Services, earning her Chartered Advisor of Philanthropy certification. Carol will be joined by Vicki Brumman. Vicki has extensive experience leading marketing and communication efforts for nonprofit and for-profit organizations. She spearheaded Planned Giving marketing at World Vision for over 15 years, where her innovative strategies revitalized and expanded their program. As product marketing leader, she directed the development of campaigns, collateral, training, and more, and advised management on industry best practices and key business drivers. Vicki also oversaw annual fundraising, acquisition, and capital campaigns at the Tacoma Rescue Mission. As their director of marketing and communications, she established new strategies that helped drive a 20% plus revenue increase within 1 year. As an avid learner, Vicki studied with renowned industry expert Dr. Russell James at Texas Tech University. She actively seeks out and applies the latest communications research, including neuromarketing principles. Previously, Vicki also led marketing campaigns, programs, and product launches for national brands, including Blue's Clues with Nickelodeon, Philips, and Hallmark. She received her MBA from Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. We are in for a treat today for sure. And as we get into our program, I just want to let you know that we've got a poll for you to complete at the beginning to assist our presenters to know who's in the room. So without any further ado, help me welcome Vicki and Carol. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean, for your introductions, and thank you everyone who's joining us today. Carol and I are both just so excited and privileged, as is the rest of the team, for you to be here and hear us talk about, share insights on Planned Giving marketing and donor communications. So without further ado, I'll get started. I don't see a poll results come up yet.
They're still coming in, so give me a minute.
Okay, so should I just wait before I start?
We've got a couple more coming in, and then
okay.
This is your last chance.
Speak now. Okay, then. So we have a really we have about a quarter with no Planned Giving experience, just getting started, a third, some a third. And so we have a really good cross section here. And then we go, ooh, almost 10% of those who are experts. And a majority is development and fundraising, some EDs, communications, professional advisors, glad you're here, and other, I'm not sure what the others are, but I'm sure glad you're here too. And are you currently awesome? Okay, so more than 50% good, over 60% is currently promoting Planned Gifts. That's awesome. Congratulations. And for those of you who aren't, I'm sure that you're probably here to kind of say, how can you help us do this? And that's what we're here for. And that's what Leave 10 is here for. So glad you're joining us. And let's see, we're all over the map. Thurston County, Pierce County, King County, and again, the infamous other. Well, again, so glad you're here. Welcome. And we're going to get started by start talking about what we're going to cover, just so we know where we're going. And that is, there we go. We're going to talk about why planned giving, why is it important? We're just going to have a quick refresher reminder on that. We're going to talk about different types of marketing goals, different keys to success around those goals, some strategies and tactics where I'll be sharing slides of what it looks like, how we use practices, and some of the things we're going to be talking about and how they look out in the real world, showing examples. Then I'm going to hand it off to my dear colleague, Carol, and she's going to talk about how do you take those message and print and digital that is out there that we're going to talk about in the first part, and how do you integrate those messages into the face-to-face conversations you have with donors. And then we're going to sum it all up and have some key takeaways and send you off with some actionable insights to take back and get rocking on. So why planned giving? Well, planned giving is super, super important to two key audiences, our donors and us as charities. And why is that? Because we know we have donors who often say to us, oh gosh, I wish I could do more, but they feel that they have a challenge that they can't quite overcome. They feel caught. It's not that they don't have donor intent. They do. They just feel that they can't give as much as they'd like. So planned giving options, these different ways that they can give, actually allows them to achieve their goals. And these may be options that they may not even be aware of or have thought of. And so it's wise for us to think as charities that this is not an ask to our donors. This is actually a service. This is coming alongside them saying, hey, you say that you would like to give more, but you feel that you can't. What if we show you a way that you can? What if we show you ways and help you explore options that allow you to achieve both your personal and your charitable goals? So that's why it's so important for donors, and it positions us as charities, as partners with them, helping to accomplish what's so dear to their heart, not only for us as maybe one of their favorite charities, but also for the loved ones in their lives. And then what does it do for us? It brings in really vital revenue and income that often, but not all the time, is undesignated. So, and it's really interesting. I'll give a lot of anecdotes from and examples from World Vision, because obviously I spent 15 years there doing planned giving marketing, is also think of planned gifts, these gifts that come through wills or trusts or beneficiary designations, as really ultimate long-term donor value. At World Vision, we saw these gifts that would come in upon death that could be multiples of 5, 10, 20. I've seen hundreds, thousands of times their total giving throughout their lifetime, because they were able to finally give in the size that they wanted by using these tools. And what are those tools? Well, in our toolbox, we got 3 big buckets. We have the life income gifts, the non-cash gifts, and then the gifts via will, trust, and beneficiary designations. And I'm gonna have a little elephant fly in here because that's the elephant in the room. That is the option that pretty much anyone can do. So that's what we lead off with. If you think of a funnel coming down, everyone at the top of the funnel is the type of gift that everyone could do, or most everyone, and that is those types of gifts. And then as we come down, it's more the non-cash gifts and the life income gifts, and Carol will touch briefly on that. So I know I ran into this at World Vision, I'm sure you may run into it too, is okay, well and good, Vicki and Carol and the rest of the team promote planned gifts, but you know what? We have the tyranny of the urgent. We need cash now for funding for programs. And so if I have to choose between a planned gift and a current gift, I'm going to go with the current gift. And we would say, no, it's not an either or proposition. And Dr. Russell James has proven with research that this is a very high level slide, But the key takeaway here is that the planned legacy gifts, those gifts again that come in through wills, trust, and beneficiary designations, when a donor puts us in their plan, they are essentially elevating us to the status of a family member. And what this research has shown is that once a charity goes into a donor supporters plan, that their current giving actually often increases. And if you think about it from a psychological point of view, that totally makes sense. They've elevated us to the status of a family member. They're leaning in, they're all in, and of course, they're not going to stop their giving. They're actually going to be leaning in and doing more. So let's talk a little bit about some marketing goals. And there's really key, I guess the magic number is 3 today, because we had the 3 big buckets of the different types. There's 3 key marketing goals to think about. We want to educate, inspire, and engage our donors about these opportunities that they may or may not have known about. And then we want to, there we go. Then we want to generate hand raisers, meaning, okay, we got them inspired thinking about, well, maybe that's something I should check out. So they respond and say, well, okay, send me some information, or if it's in face-to-face, well, tell me more, right? And then really importantly, we also want to uncover, we want the leads to go here, but we also know that there's people out here, in your portfolio right now, in your database, that have already put you in their plan, but you may not know about them. And you want to find out about them, right? Because you want to put them into a separate donor treatment stream. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll touch on that briefly later today. And then Dean will talk about a lot deeper on that in the next webinar. And so engage, inspire, educate, generate hand raisers, and uncover those plans that are already out there that we don't know about. Now, Dean asked you to close your eyes before. I'm going to ask you to do this too. And I want you to think, close your eyes and think of a 3-legged stool. We know 3-legged stools are super strong, right? And they can hold a lot of weight. But if one of those legs are cracked or weak or broken, we will fall. So if you open your eyes now and you look at this image and you think of this at the top of your stool with each color representing a different leg, keys to success as we unpack what we want to do with marketing is we want to talk about the who, the audience, the what, the message, and the how, the creative. And all 3 of these need to be equally strong, because if 2 are really strong, but 1 is really weak, you're not going to achieve the goals that you want. So let's unpack each one of these briefly, and it'll be at a very high level because each one of these could be a webinar or a day-long seminar of its own. First, we're going to start with what you say matters, because the words you choose to use will either help or hinder in getting that message across to your donor. It'll impact their ability to lean in, or kind of make them go, ooh, I'm tuning out, or I'm this isn't for me, or it's too overwhelming, I can't understand it. And so a treasure trove of research, and I'll unpack some of that here, is Dr. Russell James, Inside the Mind of the Bequest Donor. If you haven't heard of Dr. Russell James, you'll hear me quoting him a lot today in the Leave 10 toolkit, and I believe one of my colleagues here will be putting it also in the chat, are links to a lot of his research. Now, there's a lot of research, but I'm going to top line some of the key takeaways that you can go out and take back with you today and be very actionable on. And so Dr. James wanted to find out what are donors thinking about? What's the psychological process, the mind process of when they're thinking about giving a legacy gift? And he put people in MRI machines and watched what lit up in their brain. It's super fascinating, or maybe just I'm a geek, but it's super fascinating. And what he found is that different things light up in our brain when you talk about giving current gifts versus giving future gifts. And what lights up in the brain when you're thinking about a future gift is, first of all, a chemical called oxytocin really lights up. And what is oxytocin and why should you care? Oxytocin is a chemical that is stimulated when, think of when you're holding the hand of a loved one, when you're holding a baby. It's all about family. It's all about those warm fuzzies, romantic love, maternal motherhood, close family. Because what it is that philanthropy is a social act that uses mechanisms of family bonding. Well, Vicki, what does that mean? What that means is that impacts how we're going to message in the words that we're going to choose to share these wonderful opportunities with our donors and what's possible. We're going to totally avoid jargon. We are not going to use acronyms. We're going to use simple conversational words. We're going to talk about life connections, because the other thing that Dr. James noticed in his research is other parts of the brain that were lighting up had to do with visualized autobiography. What does my life stand for, and what is it going to stand for, and how am I going to perpetuate my life story, my values, and have a sense of almost symbiotic immortality? So in the words we choose, we want to be very conversational. We want to talk about life connections, the values that giving to our charities help them to realize. And we're also going to use a sense of social norming. And social norming is essentially, well, here's the best way to put it. I'm sure many of you have been to, most all of us have been to motels and hotels. And you walk into the shower and you see that little sign that says, most of our guests, would you be like most of our guests? And please use your towel a second time to help save water. It's contextualizing and saying, help be like others who are like you, who make these choices. So how does that impact and how does that look in Planned Giving marketing? Well, let me first share with you just a quick high level of a study out of the UK. There was 3,000 people who were going to do their estate plan. And so they bucketed them into three different groups, 1,000 each. So the first group, they made, when they were doing the plans for people, they made absolutely no reference to charity, and only 5% decided to put charity in their plan. The second group, they said, would you like to leave any money to a charity in your will? And got people thinking, oh, yeah, it upped from 5% to 10%. The third group, they said, well, many of our customers, like you, like to leave money to charity in their will. Are there any causes you're passionate about? This is an example of social norming. And so what does that look like for what we do? Well, it could go, hey, Carol, you've been giving to the Y for all these years. We know that you're passionate about the cause, and just would like to share with you that, many of our donors like you choose to leave us a gift in their will or beneficiary designation to us. And is that something that you might be willing to explore, or have you ever considered that? And then stop and listen. So that's a way to use social norming. Another way to use social norming is the combination of social norming and storytelling. And that's where we get the importance of donor testimonies, putting a human face on people who are using these various gift options to achieve their goals. And there's many different goals, which is why you want a lot of different donor stories, because you can, and from different ages and stages and et cetera, so that people can see there's a wide variety of ways to give, but a wide variety of ages who are using it. And that storytelling is important because, well, although we'd like to think that we make our decisions with logic, Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, in his book, Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow, and additional research has shown we actually make our decisions with emotions. Emotions drive and logic follows. Again, why is that important? It's important because storytelling is super relevant in reaching the heart. You want to stir the hearts. You want to stir what's close to them. You want to lead with the emotion and then follow with the logic. And again, the combination of storytelling and social norming where they intersect is where you have your donor testimonies. And there's different ways. I want to give you examples of how you could gather those stories, not only face to face, but also here's what Food for the Hungry did. They solicited stories off their website. And this is an example of a print piece that I sent out at World Vision. So there's a lot of ways you can get those stories. What I want to drive home is the fact that having those stories are really important to put that human face and that social norming on these various gift options. Then I want to show you some examples here of what the messaging, that conversational tone, that visualized autobiography, what does that look like in, hang on, I'm having a problem with my screen here. What does that look like in the real world? Well, here's something that, oops, apologies. Here is something that Fred Hutch, and some of these examples are from a couple years ago. So you may say, oh, Vicki, I went looking for that, but couldn't find that. But I kept them in here because they're really good illustrations. So wording like easy ways to make a lasting impact. Again, conversational, gifts that cost you nothing now, gifts that pay you income, gifts that reduce your taxes. Other way, you have options. And so that is the conversational tone, but then the fact that they have options. And then remember, we talked about visualized autobiography. Be remembered as a cancer fighter. That's aligning with their goals, the mission, saying, hey, I want my legacy to say, I've been a cancer fighter. Here's another example of from Fred Hutch, where meet supporters like you, example of using social norming messaging. Transform cancer patients into cancer survivors. Again, that's that visual autobiography, that permanence. How can I continue to make an impact even after I'm gone? And here's an interesting thing they did over here is, have you included Fred Hutch in your legacy plans? Well, yes, I have left a gift. So they might be able to uncover someone who they left a gift, but didn't plan a gift, but we haven't known about it yet. I intend to leave one, and I may someday consider. So here's great ways also to get leads utilizing your website. So we talked about the messaging. Also is important. Remember, another part of that three-legged stool is the how you say it matters. And this gets down to design. And you may wonder what these splotches are. Long story short, these are examples of heat maps. This illustrates how people read the messaging, the direct mail packages, the emails that you send out. And the takeaway here is they don't read every single word. They're going to look at headlines and subheads, and they're going to go through the first paragraph, the last paragraph, who sent it. They're going to look at images. And what this all means is you need to be very strategic and judicious on the words you use, put the most important information up front. You want to make sure that you have the right size font so it's readable, right? Because you could have the best messaging, but if it's not readable, if it looks like War and Peace and too overwhelming to even try to read through, you're going to lose the donor, and they're going to lose the opportunity, and so are you. So you want to be looking also at the colors you choose, because there's certain colors, especially as we age, that are very difficult on the eyes and vibrate the eyes, and it actually hurts or makes you squint because you can't quite, the sense of the color hurts your eyes. So, and the other thing too is, if you're going to use reverse white, put it on a high contrast color like I did here on this slide. So these are all design issues. Again, this alone could be easily a day webinar, but I wanted to just kind of unpack very high level things that you, like, again, you could have the best messaging, the best decision on who was going to be your segmentation, but different things can actually inadvertently, sabotage you if you're not aware of some of these things that are super critical. And then the third piece, the third leg of that precious stool is the audience, and who you say it to matters. And obviously, since we talked about the importance of family and visualized autobiography and the permanence of how do I continue my values, some of the most important people that are, that you want to take the message to first are the people who are most deeply engaged with you. And you can figure that out by how they're acting and how they're talking, right? So how they're acting could be, someone who's given for 5, 10, 15, 25 years. It's how long have they been on the file and been consistently giving. How are people using their time, their talent, and their treasure? So time. What about volunteers? Volunteers who have been with you for a long time. They're telling on themselves that this matters. This is part of my life story, and this is precious to me. So those are people definitely to make sure that they know what their options are, and asking them the questions of have they considered including your charity in their plan. Also, another huge key predictor is people who are childless, right? And tying back to charity as family, if they have no family, then they're especially more prone to think about the charities that are important to their life. And there's all sorts of other different audiences. And I feel free to put in the chat other target audiences that you can think of, and we can share them. We can share them at the end. Now, so we talked about the what, the how, the to whom. Let's talk about the where you say it. So this brings up two key buckets of marketing strategies. And I like to call them the ride-alongs and the dedicated. And that's simply saying the ride-along, which is why I have the little sidecar, is you're leveraging donor touch points and initiatives and messaging that you're already getting out there, and you're integrating that in, right? And we'll show some examples of that. And then there's the dedicated, and obviously I chose the clock and the money because these take a little bit more resources. This is riding along with what you already done. This is doing something new, totally dedicated to Planned Giving. Here, Planned Giving in the ride along or the leveraged strategies is one of the messages, right? You're integrating that message along with a bunch of other things. But in the dedicated, it's Planned Giving is the only message. There's nothing else taking their attention away. So let's start with the ride-alongs again. So if you think of this circle here as stuff that you're already doing, right? Maybe you got your emails going out, you have your annual report, you have your receipts, newsletters, magazines, all different things. Then what you want to do is you just take that little blue piece of the puzzle of that Planned Giving message and you integrate it in. Well, what does that look like? So here's Northwest Harvest homepage. And right from the homepage, and this is crucial because you don't want to play Where's Waldo with people, with our donors, on helping them find key information that they need. So at the very top, one click, this is just unpacking this button right here, is you can find Name Us in Your Will as one of the ways to donate, and donate stock. Right, so that's riding along, it's leveraging something you already have out there. You could even add, another page. Some, and you'll see later is, some decide to have a whole website solely dedicated to Planned Giving. But here you can maybe add a page, or you could add a banner. This banner here on Multicare talks about giving gifts, right? These legacy gifts. And what I really love about this one is it drives home the fact that every gift counts. Because you see, sometimes when we use words like estate gift, that can be quite off-putting, because someone can say, well, estate, heck, I'm no Paul Allen, I'm no Bill Gates, I don't have that kind of money. But you're saying, hey, every gift counts. And that's super important. So again, the words you choose to use help or hinder. So think about ways to, instead of maybe saying estate planning, have you thought of giving a gift through your will, trust, or beneficiary designations, right? Because here they don't use estate at all. So other areas that you can leverage and put the message in of things that you're already doing. At World Vision, we were sending out direct mail appeals to the middle and major donors. So we just put in messaging here and let them know that there's ways other than cash that they could give. There was the World Vision magazine that went out quarterly. And And I worked with my partners there and said, this is super important. And we'll find out later of how you need to have consistent messaging. This isn't like one message a year. That's not going to get you what you want. So I tried to always have within every single magazine a donor story. This one just happened to be the fact when I actually got a full spread, which didn't happen all the time. Normally it was like a third or a half of a page, but here was a full page spread, 2/3 of this being about why Tim and Jill were so excited that they had made their plans and they were sharing from their heart and the emotions. It gives us peace of mind. We love the fact that we can continue making a difference, like even after we're gone, just like we're making a difference now. And here's an example where you could, put in an ad in one of your newsletters or magazines. Another example from World Vision is here's testimony inserts. So if you have a receipt that's going out to a donor on a gift they gave, you could put in a nice, we had a little 4-panel, if you can imagine this thing folded up, finish the story, and then there was a nice little return device on the back. And so this is a lot cheaper, us creating these and then having them ride along in a donor receipt that was already going out, because I wasn't having to pay the postage on that. All I had to pay was getting this created and printed, and it could ride along, because it would have cost much more if I had to send it out on my own. Which takes us to the dedicated efforts. There's all sorts of dedicated efforts. Again, this is no longer the ride along. This means that the direct mail, the email, the website, the brochure is solely Planned Giving messaging. And now I'm not saying you have to do all of these, especially if you're just starting out. You want to walk before you want to crawl before you walk, before you run. But there's different ways to put these together. Some examples are, so here was a brochure I put together at World Vision. And again, look at the messaging. It's planning matters, right? It's not Planned Giving or gift planning, because people might go, well, what's Planned Giving or gift planning? But it's planning matters. The fact that I should plan matters, because how will I, that impacts how I will be able to reach my goals or not. 10 ways to make your giving more easier and more cost effective. This is a postcard from the Nature Conservancy. Remember, we talked about design. I love the white space. I love the combination of give wisely. They have their owl, right? Really ties together well. And they said, put an IRA to work for nature and save on taxes too. Again, very conversational. Here's an insert also from the Nature Conservancy, and really good examples of, remember we talked about life story. Here it says, I grew up camping in a local national parks, and early on I learned that nature is something that we must protect. So it's tying to their life story what's important, and then they go on to share how pleased they are and happy they are that they can continue doing this even after they're gone. There's a couple other things going on here. We got social norming. Many of our members make a gift to the Nature Conservancy through their wills. We also have them, more than 20% of the funds we raise come from these vital gifts. So it's saying, hey, these gifts are important. And then if you couple that with that message that we saw earlier, every gift matters, then we can explain to our donors, be it in email or direct mail or face-to-face, that these are vital gifts, and might they consider them. You can also do I need to just check over here. I'm not being rude. I'm just checking my message. I'm checking my notes so I don't forget what I want to say here. A survey is a really, really powerful tool. It was something that I created and used at World Vision, and it by far became the #1 generator of leads. In fact, I could pretty much tell you that if I sent it out, I was going to get about a 25 to 27% response rate. Now, not all of those were leads. Quite a few of them were leads. Some of them were on expectancy. So it was the #1 generator of everything I did that provided leads, uncovered those gifts that had been planned that we didn't know about them. But then I also had questions in here that got to their motivations. So it helped explain motivations, their interests, which then helped craft and fine tune the wording that we were using to share this information on an ongoing basis. It also can help you uncover like elusive data that you can't get elsewhere, like childlessness. You can buy an age append for your donor database. You can buy a wealth append. You cannot buy a childless append. But if you do this well without overreaching or feeling too intrusive, you can uncover some of that information, which then you can use in your marketing efforts. And so that was one of the most powerful tools and strategies that I did at World Vision. Now you may say, wow, that takes a lot of time. And yes, it takes time and effort and money. And Doug talked about this last time, that there are some vendors out there. I just call them, some in the business call them white label programs. If you think of a cake mix, when you want to make a cake, you don't have all the time to do it. You just get a cake mix, you add the water, stir, and you go. And so Crescendo and Market Smart and Pantera and Sharp and Stelter are some of the vendors out there that have pre-written copy that you kind of slip your name into or slip your picture into, and it's an option. They can help with various, whether it be some work on emails, direct mail appeals, and websites, and etc. So, hope I didn't go too fast. There's a lot that we want to share right now. I'd like to hand off to Carol to talk about how we take this messaging that is getting out there via all the print and digital efforts, and then how do you incorporate it into conversations when you're with a donor face to face? And I'm just going to tell you that because Carol and I are like literally miles away, and I'm controlling the slide, she's going to always give me a thumbs up when she needs the slide change. So if you're wondering why she keeps giving thumbs up, it's telling me move the slide. So Carol, take it away.
Thank you, Vicki. It's so good to be with all of you here today. I love that we have a mix of the nonprofit community, the estate planners and the execs. When we're coming out of COVID, and hopefully we can meet safely now with our most cherished donors and friends. And when we think about the messaging we've just learned about, the neuroscience behind it, I like to think of it as a MasterCard slide. One side of that MasterCard is a circle that's really about the donor, their values, the things that are most important to them. And we are the other side of that MasterCard slide, the other circle, and the two intersect, and the nonprofit impact and the mission and strengthening community coming together, the joy of discovering through these conversations, listening for cues and watching for clues and starting conversations to hear what they would like to accomplish, what's most meaningful to them, will create the most transformational impact for you, and also give them the joy of knowing that their legacy is intact as they go on that journey. So with that, I'm going to give a thumbs up because we are listening for some very important parts of the donor's journey. And it always starts with their why, the values we've heard them talk about through this marketing, their passions, their dreams. They have goals and desires, not only for themselves and their family, but possibly the community. And this is where this type of a tool can come into place. What I love about Planned Giving, that's great, Vicki, is that there are challenges and there are concerns that donors have. And the gift of giving through a nonprofit with this type of a toolkit can help them solve some very important things. So we're going to listen for some cues. We're going to watch for some clues. And I have to find the little, maybe I'll just say turn. So while we're listening, we're going to see how Planned Giving can make a difference. So here we are. We're looking at, as Vicki shared, gifts through a will, a trust, or a beneficiary designation. Those are gifts that can cost you nothing. And we know that we've heard her talk about when someone says that they desire to do more, but they feel they can't. We'd like to have a little role play. I'm going to be the donor. Why don't you be World Vision? Vicki, it was so good to hear an update on the World Vision programs and how they're impacting lives right now as we're coming out of COVID. I just wish I could do more. I feel like I can't, but I wish I could do more.
Oh, Carol, thank you for sharing your heart with me that way. You know, you've been giving to World Vision for so many years. I know that your heart's with water, the water projects. I know that you especially like the ones in Africa. And to hear you say that you wish you could do more is just, it's inspiring, and it's also possible. Because there are gift options. There's ways to give that you may not know of or may not have explored yet that actually can help you achieve both your personal and your charitable goals. And so I'm curious, since you said you wish you could do more, if you're interested in exploring some of those options with me and my colleagues who can help walk you through some of those.
No, I do love the water program, and I've been giving to it for a long time. I'd like to do that. Let's have that conversation.
Awesome. Awesome.
So that's a wonderful way to just start with the cues. Now we're going to look at, in the funnel that Vicki talked about, we know there's a lot of different types of people that care about your nonprofit and things that are important in society, but we're going to really focus on the clues and what to watch for with two very specific best possible donor prospects. When someone, as Vicki had shared, does not have children, or they have become a widow or widower, this is a wonderful opportunity to help them help themselves do more with their values and see the future that they'd like to have in society. Of course, those who are deeply engaged for a long period of time as a volunteer, maybe they were an alumnus and they come back and they give their speaking back to a university, or other types of long-term giving and care are really those big clues to watch for. So why don't we get into some conversation starters with these types of donors. I didn't put the thumb up.
Don't worry.
Yeah. We're looking at clues, we're looking at cues, and now we're looking at conversation starters. So let's ask permission to learn more. Vicki, you've been so generous to the YMCA for so many years. I want to thank you. Leading with generosity is always the best way to start. And there's three key parts to this next sentence that I'd like you to zone in on. You know that so many of our long-term donors really do care and have included a gift to the YMCA using their will. Some have used a beneficiary designation. Is this something you've ever considered? That's permission-based. It's valuing them and meeting them where they're at and listening for that opportunity to take it to the next step. So now what happens while you're in the conversation? And this is specifically about the high level, the gifts that are easiest to have a discussion on, the gifts that cost you nothing now. We want to learn more about their planning. They may not be on a planning journey yet for charitable and estate planning, but this is a really important time to encourage them to explore ways to include the charities they care about and remind them to keep their plans up to date, even offering to review. That builds trust. While you're doing that, you may uncover a gift that's already been put into their plans that you didn't know about. And then you have an opportunity to thank them and invite them into your legacy society. Very, very trust-based conversations. Here we are, life-changing events. We know this is an opportunity when they are making decisions about their plans. And if they haven't, this is an opportunity to help them keep their plans up to date and learn about where their plans are. If they're getting married or they've gotten separated, a change in marital status can be a key time to consider reviewing their plans and opening that conversation for charitable intention. Maybe they've had grandchildren born in their family, or an adoption has happened, something's changed with their family. If they've sold houses or are buying or purchasing other assets that are important to them, that is a good time to review. If there's a death in the family, chronic illness, there's consideration of what's important, and it's a time to keep their plans up to date. And of course, updating plans and exploring charitable intentions at this time can help them solve some problems as well. So let's look at some different ways. I want to focus on a couple of the easiest ones in the non-cash asset world. You can see a certificate here. Stock holdings are one of the easiest ways to give a large gift at a lower cost. So you're helping them solve a problem and they can give more. Of course, retirement assets. And if they're over 70 and a half, you can have that charitable IRA rollover conversations, a way to give wisely and putting an IRA to work at the nonprofit they care about and get more deeply involved with impact. That can help them save some taxes too. But the cues we can also listen for are if they're a farmer, they can give commodities. It's a little bit more complex. It can be done simply though. Washington State University has Bushels for Butch, which is the mascot, and that's a wheat donation program. It's very successful. Life insurance that they may not need now, another great tool in non-cash. Of course, if they're real estate ownerships or private business or public business, those are great cues to listen for. So let's look at some conversation starters in this space. Still trying to be with the thumbs up. So let's look at and listen for the type of non-cash assets that would, these are two different ways to ask that are tried and true, and they're just so simple, but you can do it. What would you like to make a cash gift, or would it be better to give a non-cash asset? It's so simple. You let them think about it and they can respond given what we know about these two key tools and the other ones as well. And then specifically exploring stock, I would just strongly recommend it currently with the stock market being so strong and donors being in a place where that can be an opportunity. So let's look at some conversation. Oops, I don't want to close my recording. My apologies. Let's look at cues and what to listen for with the three different types of non-cash assets. If they say, wow, I'm going to be good with capital gains this year with my stock investments, that gives you an opportunity to help them think about making a big impact and reducing taxes and making an effective gift. Someone talks about their vacation home. It's become a burden. They don't use it anymore. The children have grown. Real estate is a wonderful tool for giving a partial gift, a bargain sale, or an outright gift. There's just multiple ways to work with real estate. And our toolkit in the Leave 10 packet has a number of opportunities to think about that. Of course, if they are selling their business, and this is a time in history, there's a huge wealth transfer, a number of private businesses are selling. So be aware of those who have small businesses or private businesses. They can reduce their taxes and make a big impact either through a charitable trust or even a donor advice fund. Just worked with someone last week on that and she's excited. She said she had no idea that they could save all this money and give it to charity. Now they're beginning their legacy journey. In fact, I just want to mention there, Mark, I've got to remember his last name. There's a gentleman that's part of our CAP program that created the Legacy Spectrum, and maybe Doug could put that into the chat. It's a free tutorial, very simple 5 modules that your donors and friends can use to think about their donor journey. And it helps them consider some of these impacts that they can make through you as a nonprofit. So let's look at a couple more types of non-cash assets. Let's look at the life income gifts. Now, those are the gifts that when you give the asset, the donor gets payments for a certain number of years or for life. And there's cues we can listen for with these types of gifts. If they're concerned about capital gains on stock or real estate, if there's concern over lower interest rates, maybe they're limited by income and they're concerned about having enough money to live on. They're getting close to retirement and they're concerned about being able to retire and have enough to have for their lifestyle. And if there's someone in their life, maybe it's an adult child that needs support or someone that they need to care for and provide for, life income gifts are a wonderful tool. They can make a big impact for the nonprofit and they can also support their own and solve their own problems. Here's some conversation starters around that type of a gift. And I like this one because it comes in 3 parts. Did you know you can make a gift to World Vision that provides a payment for life, gives a current income tax deduction, and enables you to make a meaningful future gift to your favorite program, the water program at the World Vision? It's a wonderful way to get the conversation started, and it gives them an opportunity to then deepen their relationship with you as well. So don't be afraid of these types of tools that pay income, like charitable gift annuities and charitable trusts. We don't have to be experts. In fact, when you're with a donor and there's an opportunity to say, you know, I'm not an expert in these more complex tools, but with your permission, I would like to introduce you to Judy. She can talk with you about it and give you some more details and help you. You can explore options what would work best given your unique situation, your goals, and of course, which assets would be good for funding those gifts. So we put an asterisk on someone because it could be at your nonprofit. It could be a Leave 10 partner on this call, the team, or even a community foundation. So with that, there's some things you need to know about materials that come alongside this important conversation. And these are just the top key ones for success. There's a lot more. They're all in the toolkit under the how to discuss planned gifts and also essential donor communications and systems. And the first one is the most important. It's the sample legacy language for gifts via will or trust. And some people call it the sample bequest language. That's in the toolkit. Sample language. This helps them know how to structure your charity's information in their will or trust. The charity's official name, this may sound silly, but the official name and the EIN and beneficiary is really important, right? For beneficiary designations and all these tools. I've seen it over and over again where the YMCA is named, but they put the name in wrong and they didn't have an EIN number. So we didn't know if it was for us or if it was for another entity. It can cause confusion. It's very simple, but make it a priority. Of course, stock instructions for stock gifts, so they can give directly to you. They don't sell the stock first, it comes directly to your nonprofit. I use something called a legacy form. It's a gift intention form. When your donor says, you know, I wish I could do more and I'd like to include you in my plans, let's document as much as they're willing to share. And that could be in the form of a little bit of background about them. It can also include the percentage of their estate that they're planning on giving. Yes, thank you, Evelyn, for including Mark Weber's Spectrum of Legacies. We'll get back to that in a minute. I'm so excited about that. Everyone take a look at it. It will help you with the conversation. The Legacy Society brochure or one sheet, or maybe it's on your website, is also important. And these are tools that you will want to share with them. And of course, the most important, the estate administration collateral. We have a whole section in the toolkit on the importance of the estate administration. When someone passes and you get that letter from the executor, the attorney, immediately send them a letter, a handwritten note if you can to the family, if they'll provide that. Thank you, Doug, for the samples on the bequest language and the other tools. But that letter with the executor is critical because it lets them know that you're ready to receive the gift. And it could be over time. I just worked with an estate where it had 7 different LLCs that were to be liquidated over many months. And at the Y, I was able to help with the first 5, and there's still 2 more coming. So I have that completely documented and ready for someone to take that on now that I'm over at Kitsap Bank. That gets to something really important that we wanted to include, a big part of this webinar for you, but we're not doing it. It needs to come in a later time, and that's the back side of the house. The other things that are really, really important is having good tracking of your leads, of course, of those who have future gift expectancies. They're now part of the family, and documenting the future gifts. Processing the non-cash assets is something you want to track and have a good system with your gift planning team. Some nonprofits call it the gift processing team, getting these coded. I imagine we'll have this in a future webinar. It's very important. And lastly, I want to just strike the highlight on the estate administration upon donor death. Having that dedicated point person. So for example, when I left the Y, I made sure that our gift processing person was still following that estate gift as the LLCs were being liquidated, so that you make sure that you get your gift and the family can be valued and the legacy can be created. So with that, I'm going to toss it over to Vicki to bring us home.
Thank you, Carol, for all those wonderful insights and examples. Yeah, it's just such an honor to be able to come alongside our donors, right? And help them achieve the goals that they have and to help them realize that it is possible. It's, it's not an either or, that they can, there are ways that help them achieve both their charitable and their personal goals. And that is the power. That is the power of Planned Giving. And that is why the message is so important to be getting out. And to be able to get that message out, integration is absolutely crucial. It is key. It's integrating with all your teams throughout the organization, from donor processing, from marketing, the executive director, the development team. I mean, who's taking care of getting out the newsletter or the magazine, or hey, can I slip some Planned Giving message in there? So it's all working together as a team on behalf of enabling our donors and empowering our donors to achieve these amazing goals and objectives with these powerful tools. And one thing I really want to stress, because it was, wow, a mind shift when I came from for-profit to nonprofit. Because in for-profit, you're so used to, oh, I'm going to get this campaign out, I'm going to launch this, I'm going to get this message out, and I'm going to know instantly, am I successful? Did we get in the money? It's quick turnaround. Well, if you're promoting stock gifts, or hey, do you want to do a charitable gift annuity? Oh, you'll know pretty fast if people have chosen to do that. But if with the big elephant in the room, which is encouraging and exciting people about leaving gifts through their wills, their trusts, and their beneficiary designations, or their transfer on deaths, known as a TOD, or a POD, known as payable on death, many of which bank accounts and stock accounts can be transferred that way. Sometimes some of those decisions, if it's like, oh, I'll add you to my beneficiary designation, that might be a really quick decision, and also very quick for the donors to do. However, if they have a more complex set of assets and decisions to make, it's going to be a more long drawn out process of putting together a living trust, or even going to do their will. They're like, oh, well, it's going to cost money, it's going to take time. And so sometimes they can have a tendency to put things off, or all of this is being said to say you're planting seeds. And seeds take time to grow. It's not immediate. And remember, if we plant a seed and try and dig it up, and we're not gonna. We have to nurture it. We have to let it grow. We have to be patient. So there's a bit of faith here. Is that it takes a while, and that's okay. That is part of this this process that we do. And what do planting seeds need? Well, they need a lot of watering. If you plant that seed, if you go out and plant some tulips right now, or daffodils, well, I guess they should have been planted a little while sooner than this, but you know what I'm saying. If you go out and plant something and you water it once and walk away, or you decide to water it maybe once a month, you know what's going to happen to it. It is not going to grow. So the idea that, oh, we can get this message out, willy-nilly, or maybe once a year, maybe 2 times a year, if you do it, then don't expect a lot of success, because you want to get the constant watering out there, because your donors are at all ages and stages of life and stages of decision making around, their legacy gift. Everyone, Carol talked and shared about the different life events that can be triggers, right? That can all of a sudden they go, oh, wow, I just got a diagnosis, or a friend died, or I have a new grandchild. Oh, I need to be planning. We don't know when those things are going to happen. And it's happening to everyone, to someone every day on the planet, right? And probably even in your database. And so that constant watering and message is crucial to get out. And then another key thing, another key takeaway, in addition to the ones I'll share in a few minutes, is once you find out that a donor has put your charity in their plan, that is not the end. That is the beginning. And here I have if you're wondering why I have the word bequest in yellow, it's because I specifically chose not to use the word bequest through most of this PowerPoint presentation, because bequest is a very jargony word. I used it here because I didn't have space, and I also wanted to make a point that bequest is a word you pretty much want to avoid. This comes from Dr. Russell James's research, and use more of the conversational tone, right? Because this sounds kind of transactionally, bequest, but using it internally is one thing, but recommend not using it out in your messaging. That's when you can simply use the conversational wording of, would you consider giving a gift via your will, trust, using your beneficiary designations, using your transfer on death designations. Well, probably won't go there because then you're bringing up death, beneficiary designations. Okay, learning moment there. But the key thing here is it's not the end, it's the beginning. So please don't just go count it and forget it, because the reason for that is these gifts are revocable. One of the beauties of the gifts through wills and trusts and beneficiary designations is that, yeah, they can give really big, they can give gifts larger than they thought possible. But a beauty for them on their side also is the fact that they keep control of that asset, whether they're giving you cash or stock or real estate in the end, and keep control of that asset during their life. And they can choose, depending on what's going on in their life and also how you're treating them, as whether to increase the gift or decrease the gift or pull you out altogether, because the importance is this is a long-term relationship. Oftentimes I've seen at organizations where, you might have long donors who've been giving for a long time. They've been getting all the emails and the newsletters and the magazines, and they're getting the appeals, and suddenly, because they're getting closer to death, the older donors, and they're worried about, am I going to run out of money? It's not lack of donative intent. They're concerned about, the unknown, right? So Robert Sharp used to talk about a bell curve. You have young donors, they give, they start coming up the curve as they age, they give more, and then they kind of peak. And then you come down the backside, right? And you're coming down the backside of that bell curve. That's where the people are donors who are maybe, not necessarily stop giving. They might stop to give, or they are giving less frequently or smaller gifts. Might not necessarily mean that they love you less. Again, they're concerned about what's happening in their life. Well, that's the time you got to keep loving on them. And what I've seen is some organizations just stop communicating with them in general because they're almost treating them more like an ATM, and we're not going to get the money. Well, you might not get the current money, but if you're loving on them and they put you in their plan, you need to love them. There's an author, Stephen Pidgeon out of the UK, who wrote a book, Loving Your Donors Till Death. And that's what we need to do, because we know that plans will destabilize as they get older. We don't want to ignore them, and we just want to keep loving on them, which takes us to the importance of stewardship. I cannot emphasize the importance of stewardship enough, and I don't want to take too much away from Dean, because I know he'll be talking about it next time. But stewardship is the key linchpin, because you can be doing all this wonderful marketing and getting all the leads and uncovering the gifts and doing all the back engine right. And then if you're like not taking care of them, then they're just walking out the back door. And the plan that matters is the last plan. And you want to make sure that you're in it, because that's the actionable plan before they die, because they can make a lot of these are, like I said, are revocable, and that's revocable up to death, those planned gifts. So with all of that said, we're coming into the last stretch here now, and we're going to end with some keep in minds and some summaries. So in the first part, we talked about more of that mass marketing, that getting it out, the messaging out via digital and print, and showed some examples, right? And it started off with, first of all, well, why does it matter? Why does Planned Giving matter? Because it's a solution. It's not an ask. It is a solution to help donors achieve a goal that right now they wish they could, but they don't feel they can. They can, and you come alongside and say, here's ways that you can. So you really want to remember, what's your messaging? Remember, the words you choose to use either help or hinder. They're either going to lean in or lean out because of what you're saying and how you're saying it. Are you making it palatable? Are you making it easy to read? And that comes to design. And whoops, I need to plug in my computer. Okay, I'm back. And really looking at your target audiences. And again, we talked about the leveraged or the ride along and the dedicated strategies and how to do that. And stewardship. Yep, you're going to hear me still say stewardship. I'm warming them up for you, Dean, for next time. And so if you kind of unpack that last slide by saying, for those of you who are just starting out and you're relatively new, if you look at the gift types that you're going to promote and focus on the ones that almost everyone can do. Remember, what's the elephant in the room? The gifts through the wills, the trust, the beneficiary designations, right? For target audiences, you're focusing on those who are deepest engaged. You're looking at your older donors, right? Making sure that they have their plans in place so their wishes are known, whether you're in the plan or not. That's the service to say, are your plans, do you have plans? Are your plans in place? And might you consider us putting a gift to us in there? Looking at the childless, the widow, the widower, the strategies, you're going to start with the leveraged efforts. You're going to crawl before you walk, before you run. And just, if you just start using the touch points that you're already using with donors and getting that message out there. From a collateral suite, you're going to start with your minimal needs. We talked a little bit about that, but there's still a lot to unpack there. And then Legacy Society, you're going to start that. And I'm sure Dean's going to talk a lot about that next time. Now, and yes, you can do this. So don't be overwhelmed. Trust me. I know what it's like. I've been on both ends of the pendulum. I started out marketing at World Vision, Planned Giving. I was hired to market Planned Giving. I didn't know absolutely anything about Planned Giving. But I knew about marketing, and it all came down to, what is it? Why does it matter? Why should I care? And if you put yourself in that, what is it in, what's the why behind why a donor should care about this? And we talked a lot about that. So, and now after, 15, 20 years, then I can understand, get the more sophisticated stuff. So for those who are have a more immediate or advanced program, then the gift types, obviously you're going to keep doing the elephant in the room, but then you're going to start adding the more complex options. Not only just the outright stock gifts, but it's stock funding, the various charitable trusts, right? And, is it a real estate bargain sale, or maybe you're going to be accepting real estate that might be a little harder to manage and get through than someone who is just dealing with a simpler form of real estate. Target audience, you're going to start expanding those segments and going deeper and doing more research, and maybe using those surveys to kind of unpack the motivations and put people into buckets. From a strategy, you're going to advance to the dedicated efforts and doing more of where the Planned Giving is solely the message for a direct mail appeal, etc. For collateral, you're definitely going to expand. That's when you can start having at World Vision, because it was more advanced. I not only had a simple brochure on different ways that people could give, which you saw, but then I unpacked each one of those options as a separate sheet that we would send out to donors or give to the development reps to share in face-to-face meetings. And then, there's a lot more that you can do with the Legacy Society. Deeper, you can do donor walls, you can do all sorts of things. Again, you can do this. And then taking a summary of what Carol had to share. And that is listen for the donors' hearts, their challenges, their goals, because it's all evolving around them and how these gifts, again, can help them overcome their challenges, reach their goals, align with their values, continue making a difference, and have that visualized autobiography and go, wow, I may be gone, but I will still be making an impact. So you're going to listen for those cues that we shared, watch for those clues, be relational and not transactional. Remember, this is about the heart. It's not about the head. This is actually quite sacred ground, you know, when you're talking to people about what their legacy is going to be. And you don't have to be an expert. You have partners, and some of the partners are, you know, the team here, the Leave 10, community foundations, etc. So don't be overwhelmed. Listen, I've been there, but this is totally doable. Trust me. And so with that, we have reached Q&A, but before we take some quick questions, I would be very remiss if I didn't quickly say special thanks to the Leave 10 South Sound Sustaining Partners, the Greater Tacoma Community Foundation, the Ben B. Cheney Foundation, the Community Foundation of South Puget Sound, Multi-Care Foundations, and Cornerstone Financial. Thank you all for the support of Leave 10 South Sound. And with that, I will take us back to Q&A. And then if anyone is interested later on, there is contact information for both Carol and I. But so we're at Q&A, and I will turn it over to, is it Courtney or Dean who's going to be handling that?
I'm on it. If you
Okay.
have questions, probably the easiest thing to do is drop them in the chat, and I will figure out who to address them to. At this point, I haven't seen any that have not been answered. So if anybody has anything else that they're dying to know, let us know.
Courtney, I'll just bring up, it's Carol. I put in chat, we were concerned about time, so I didn't go over this during the program, but there are some wonderful donor conversation questions in the toolkit. One is from Caspic and Company that came out of Washington State University, called the PAPA questions. And it's really just about getting to know the people in their lives, because this is a journey. Rick mentioned that in chat. It isn't a one-time conversation. You know, who are the people in their lives? What are the assets they have, their passions, their plans, and their advisors? And it gives you a way to introduce it in a discovery mode that feels authentic. It is authentic, and takes you through these next steps for assessing the solutions that Planned Giving can do. So thank you for letting me share.
I'm not seeing any questions. I do want to make a point to let you know that this PowerPoint, as well as the recording, will be put on our website, so that if you want to come back to any of this information, that will be available for you. Which somebody just chatted in, so there we go. You can also see the past one too, if you missed the first one.
Judy, if you'd like to talk with myself or Vicki, I'm holding our hands up high in prep for your board if we can be of service. Love to support you.
Yeah, I guess I'll chime in right now. This is Dean Carroll again. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Vicki and Carol, for that robust education on how to market and talk to our donors and friends about opportunities. And I think I love the quote that was used earlier, and someone posted it, said, best line of the day, it's not an ask, it's a solution. Fantastic. It's a journey that we're on, and it's a journey of solutions, not just making asks. So thank you so much, Vicki and Carol, for helping us through and guiding this session today. It doesn't look like we really have many questions coming up, just wonderful applauses to each of you. I would note that I want to thank all of the participants that have joined us today. We appreciate you. We appreciate you being invested in these topics. And we welcome you back for our third session in this series on Friday, May 20th, when it's been said a couple times now, I'll be helping present on a topic about stewardship of planned gifts. It's one thing to talk about it with someone and to ultimately receive a planned gift that comes in, but like it was pointed out in the presentation, to steward that donor through the times of their life, be grateful for that gift that is about to come. There's lots to unpack there. We just want to thank you again for today and to join us on Friday, May 20th. Communications will come in regards to that. And I don't think there's anything else that we could mention right now, but I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our Leave 10 champions.
Thanks so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I hope that you found this exciting and helpful.